everyone, and welcome back to Notice This. I'm Kathryn, and as some of you may know, I work with Nationwide Notice, a preliminary notice and lien service. And today I want to talk about one of the biggest things we see our clients struggle with, and that is knowing the right next steps when an invoice goes past due. Because honestly, most collections problems, they don't happen overnight. Usually it starts with a slow payment, and then some miscommunication, and then suddenly you're 60, 90, even 120 days out trying to figure out what options you still have left. And that's why today's keyword is going to be leverage. The companies that get paid the fastest are usually the companies that create leverage early on. One of the biggest mistakes we see is companies waiting too long to escalate. A customer says, the check's coming next week, I'm sure I'll receive payment by then. And then another week passes, and another week passes, and suddenly the lien deadline is approaching and fast. So instead of reacting late in the process, we usually recommend creating a very structured escalation process. So to give you some examples, maybe around 30 days past due, you send a collections demand letter. This is one of Nationwide Notice's internal collection letters designed specifically to help clients create pressure early while still keeping the process very professional. And it's not necessarily an aggressive letter, but it just formally communicates, hey, this balance is outstanding and we need to try and resolve it. That alone creates leverage because now you have documentation and visibility around the issue. Then maybe around 60 days past due, the next escalation step becomes a threat to lien letter. This is another one of our internal collection tools that we created specifically for escalation before filing the actual lien. Now, the threat to lien is very similar to a notice of intent. And in many cases, it serves like the exact same purpose. It formally notifies the customer that if payment is not received, the next step will be filing a lien or even a claim on bond. And honestly, this is usually the point where customers realize, okay, they're starting to get pretty serious. A lot of payments happen before the lien is ever filed, simply because leverage was created early enough. We see this happen all the time. One really important thing to understand, though, is that some states actually require a formal notice of intent before filing a lien. So while a threat to lien is a very strong collections tool on its own, you need to make sure that you are complying with any state-specific notice of intent requirements and timelines. That's where having a process becomes very critical because every state handles these requirements completely differently. It's kind of crazy. Some require certified mail, some have very strict delivery timelines, some require very specific language, and some don't require a notice of intent to lien at all. So that's where the threat to lien comes in. So the earlier you start the escalation process, the more leverage and flexibility you will have later on. And honestly, this is why waiting until the last minute creates so much risk. When companies wait too long, you just lose leverage. And deadlines get tight, documentation becomes harder to track down, and sometimes legal requirements are completely missed. So the goal is to create a process where every next step happens intentionally instead of reactively. This is where automation becomes a huge advantage because instead of relying on memory or spreadsheets, you can actually leverage workflows and reminders to keep everything moving on time. So for example, a collections demand letter, it can be reviewed or triggered to be sent at 30 days past due. The threat to lien, same thing, but maybe that's at 60 days. Automated reminders for notice of intent deadlines, you have state-specific escalation timelines, and internal alerts before lien deadlines expire. So you have a lot of options to work with, but that consistency is what helps protect your rights while also helping your team stay proactive instead of reactive. And actually, that is leading perfectly into something I wanted to invite you all to. So on May 20th at 2 p.m. Eastern Time, so next Wednesday, Nationwide Notice is hosting a live training webinar all about collections, escalation strategies, and leveraging the right next steps to get paid faster. We're going to be covering a lot of what I already have in this video, but it's the collection process, real-world escalation strategies, collection letters, lien rights, notice of intent requirements. what platform workflows, automation we may recommend, and at the end of it, we will have a live Q&A. So if you want to learn how to create more leverage in your collections process and better protect your lien rights, we'd love to have you join us. You can actually register using the link below. And as always, thank you for watching Notice This. I'll see you in the next one.